Welcome to the Intentional Awakening Podcast with your hosts, Kathy Gruver and Terrie Huberman.
Well, hello there and welcome to the Intentional Awakening Podcast. I'm Terrie Huberman.
And I am your co-host, Kathy Gruver. And as we start every episode, we have an angel card for you today. It is openness.
Oh,
Openness. Let go of predetermined outcomes and guarded responses. Move with receptivity and readiness to change. And on that note, so Terrie, I grew up in Pittsburgh, very East Coast, very pragmatic, very, logic, simple, kind of blue collar work ethic. And I moved to California where the woo meter goes up a little bit, right? So even though I was pretty woo in Pittsburgh in the 80s, not very woo back, right? There were certain things that I heard in California that I had never, ever heard elsewhere, that hadn't heard of, that didn't understand. Things like, oh God, Mercury's in retrograde, better be careful. And I remember going, what the hell is Mercury in retrograde, as the woo meter went up? So I have had through the years people who will not get on a phone call, will not use electronics, will not sign a contract, will not start a new job, people that have lost like acting gigs because they didn't want to sign the contract during Mercury in retrograde. Thoughts?
Whew. Yeah. So, first of all, I do think it's become more mainstream, probably in like the last 10 years. So, I mean, growing up, I was always in the psychic woo world, but not necessarily astrology.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about Mercury retrograde, all that's really happening is that the planet is slowing down in its rotation. That's it. Okay, so nothing's wrong, nothing's bad, right? But of course, since energy influences energy, it does affect all of the other celestial bodies of energy as well, right? So again, if energy influences energy, you're going to feel and see results like that, right? So there's a level of truth to that is what happens. But there's also a level of truth where people can totally take it out of proportion and really make a big deal about it, right? The planet of Mercury is about communication. Really, it's about communication and interaction. And if that planet is slowing down, what that means is that there could be, again, energy influences energy. There could be a possibility where communication of all sorts slow down or break down until they get fixed again, right? So, with all of the technology that we have these days, that's probably also why it's become more mainstream, because we're using more electronics and stuff like that. So there are actual breakdowns and systems and all of that stuff, right? Because again, the nature of energy is that energy influences energy. But the beautiful, wonderful human and its entanglement will make stories up about it, right? So the question becomes, is a lot of what you're experiencing actual reality of the energy, or is it something that you're creating in your wonderful, beautiful, dynamic mind, right?
Yep.
So it still comes down to a choice of how or what you're going to do, respond, react, behave, all of those things.
Yep.
Right? So there are actual research, there's actual research done that a lot of IT people, like, computer fixers and stuff, they get more business during retrograde periods because things break down and all that. Again, since everything's energy, it's going to influence it. But the question becomes is, do you need to be held hostage by the fact that that happens? That's a choice, that's a story, and that's more human oriented, if that makes any sense.
Well, to this point, so I was working, God, I can't remember if it was an editor or a PR person. It doesn't really matter. But I developed a really great rapport with this woman. I developed a really great relationship with this woman. We were ready to work together. Her contract was like 1 page. It was the simplest thing in the world. We knew each other. It was a formality of signing this contract. And I remember pinging her one morning and I said, "Oh, hey, I didn't get the contract yet. I wanted to get that signed so we can get underway." And she goes, "We're going to wait because Mercury's in retrograde and I don't want to sign any contracts right now." And I'm like, "But we agreed to work together. It's a 1 page contract. It's like, what do
Yeah.
you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
Either we're going to screw each other this week or we're going to screw each other next week."
Oh,
And it was just, but she, she was so afraid something was going to go wrong signing the
yeah.
contract now. And it's like, but it's the exact same contract next week. But she so gave into this idea
Yeah.
of signing it during this phase of this planet. And
Yeah.
it just sort of blew my mind because, 3 days went by and then we signed the contract, everything was fine. Nothing was different. We were the same people. The piece of paper was the same. You
Yeah.
know, it seems so limiting. And,
It is.
I very strongly believe in self-fulfilling prophecies
Correct.
and us programming outcomes to things.
Yeah.
And if we live our lives in fear that we're going to get screwed, it's going to go wrong, then I think we're just setting ourselves up for that to happen,
Yeah.
regardless of where the planets are. And I'm not a huge astrology person. I certainly adhere to some of its tenets. I don't know tons about it, but I used to have an astrologer who was an ex-CIA code breaker.
Nice.
And her job was to recognize patterns, and that's really all astrology is patterns
Correct.
throughout history, and people have charted those and noticed what happens. And sometimes it's pretty damn accurate.
Yeah.
But I want to encourage people not to stop your life for 12 days, 16 days, whatever it is, because a planet is doing something. Take precautions, yes. Maybe read the contract twice, make sure you back up your computer. Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
We should be backing up our computers regardless of what Mercury's doing.
Yeah.
But it was just so interesting to me that she was so held hostage by this concept of planets rather than just living and moving forward and taking steps towards a resolution to something. It was fascinating to me.
I have to tell you that I very much fed into that storyline until, and what broke it for me, because I'm an experiential learner and I can be stubborn. I went on a vacation during Mercury retrograde. I know, right? Which meant I had to fly, right? Which meant I had to be in a hotel, which meant I had to, make sure everything was coordinated for me to get from point A to point B and whatever. It was the best damn vacation I ever had. Now, were there delays? Absolutely. Did this flight miss this flight because of weather or whatever? Yes. But what people don't understand is that because of duality, there's also a good point, a good aspect to Mercury retrograde. And if we're going to make it a little bit more woo, so the woo-y meter just went a little bit. Mercury just wants you to slow down so that you can make better decisions. So I had the opportunity to truly slow down, and I had to overcome some frustrations of oh my God, the car rental place didn't have the car I wanted, right? I had a car, just not the car whatever. But that was the best and most relaxing vacation that I ever had. And I came through the trip. And granted, Mercury retrograde period, it could be about a 2-month period. So if you're not signing contracts or doing business, you're really using this to your detriment.
Right, absolutely.
It was the best vacation I ever had. I would forever go on a vacation on Mercury retrograde, and I pressed publish for Amazon on my book the other day during Mercury retrograde. Am I having some issues? Yeah. So what? Who's to say that those issues wouldn't? And they would have, because it's about the sizing of the book cover, but there's a delay. Okay. I wanted it out today. Right. It's going to come out 3 days later. Whatever.
Right. Well, and I was going to say, as a very frequent traveler, okay, weather is going to happen. Delays are going to happen. A computer is going to go down. Yes. Someone's not going to show up for work. Your bag's going to be sitting on the tarmac while you go, oh, there goes. Yeah. All right, that's not getting there. That is life.
Yeah.
And as meaning-making creatures, and I do this too, we want to have a reason why that happened. We don't like randomness. We don't like unexplained.
Yeah.
And for people who lean towards the spiritual, if we can assign I've noticed, if we can assign a spiritual meaning to it, then that makes us feel better about the fact that
Yeah.
it happened somehow. Maybe
Yeah.
I had a friend that couldn't figure out why their trip from LA to Portland was going to be $850. They were baffled. And I said, well, that's weird. I said, let me see your flight reservations. Well, they booked Portland, Maine, not Portland, Oregon.
Slowing down is so
Not
important.
not Mercury retrograde.
No.
It's a reading problem. And as we know, reading
Right.
is fundamental.
Yeah.
So it's like, but we want to so often assign these big, like mysterious things to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, there was a flight delay because
Yeah.
the captain had to take a dump before the flight took off and he
Yeah.
got locked in the bathroom. I mean, it's like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's when we step on the spiritual path, it's so, and this is almost sort of the opposite of spiritual bypassing, which we have a whole nother episode on. It's assigning everything to some
Yeah.
spiritual cosmic reason.
Yeah.
Life just happens. We're humans on this planet, and humans are faulty, and technology's faulty, and weather's faulty, and not everything is going to be smooth sailing always. That's not some cosmic thing. Sometimes it can be, but
Yeah.
it's not always some, oh, the universe is telling me something. Sometimes your flight's delayed.
And see,
Like,
that's where spirituality comes in, right? Because it's affecting the human. So the human,
mm,
in order to feel better or soothe or whatever, needs to overcome that part of the human experience, right? To find the relief, to find the relaxation, to be able to meditate when you're frustrated in an airport because so it's
oh,
that's where I say that's where I say you need to and life.
mm-hmm,
You're frustrated and you're stalled and you're still like in your human body, so you can also, which is another and also you can also meditate, right? So there
yep,
are all these different levels of truth that can be anded at the same time, right?
yep,
So that's what spirituality is using the human. And like during these moments of breakdown is when we get the opportunity to evolve our human. And Mercury retrograde is one of those perfect times to take control of your human and understand that energy doesn't influence energy. So how can I work with it as
mm-hmm.
well?
Well, and to your point, it's a beautiful opportunity. Okay, let's say it is some big cosmic thing. Maybe the lesson is sit there and shut up and be quiet and have patience and
Yeah.
help your fellow man and
Yep.
not be a dick to the flight attendant. And,
Correct.
I mean, I sit in airports where people are screaming at the lady at the counter. She can't magically make the plane appear.
No.
She's very sorry that you're not getting to Albuquerque. She can't make that and I've seen people be so horribly rude to people that don't deserve it. And
Yeah.
for the most part, the person that they're screaming at handles it with grace
Yeah.
and professionalism. And I have walked up to those people afterwards and said, as a fellow human being, I want to thank you for handling that so professionally. And I'm so sorry that guy was such an asshole to you
Oh,
because it's this, they all look this, it's the same stereotype of person too that's screaming at this poor woman. We don't
yeah.
need to get into that. But it's like, if this is teaching you some spiritual lesson, then make it be about presence,
Yeah. And being a good, kind human.
a good,
That
kind
is
human.
what we're having to deal with. Again, we're wearing our earth suits, so we can't run away from it. We have to deal with it. And Mercury retrograde is a beautiful, fabulous, amazing, wonderful mirror, right? To how are we responding, reacting, and behaving, and how might
Yep.
we be able to change that so that we are a better, kinder, more compassionate human.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
what a beautiful place to end. Yeah.
Perfect.
Absolutely. So sure, pay attention to what's happening cosmically. Don't let it
Yeah.
rule your life. Don't
Yeah.
sit in fear and stagnation because something's happening.
Yeah.
Take precautions as you would with anything else. If you hear it's going to rain, take an umbrella. If you know
Yeah.
Mercury in retrograde's coming, back up your computer.
Yeah.
Just take precautions. Be
Yeah.
smart about it.
Yeah.
Don't be a slave to it. So I'm Kathy Gruver. I could be reached at kathygruver.coach.
And I'm Terrie Huberman. You can find me at terriehuberman.com. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Intentional Awakening Podcast. We'll see you in our next podcast soon. Bye.
See you next week.